Welcome to Studio Stories. I'm Julien, and I'm a photographer based in Atlanta. The thing I love about photography is the immediacy of photography. You have somebody in front of the camera, you take a photo, and you immediately see the results. But more so, it's being able to capture an authentic passion, the energy, and the people that you photograph. I really look to photograph people in their natural environment or in the studio, letting them be who they are, not who somebody thinks they want to be. Well, there's so much to photography, and it's true that it's the image that you see in front of you and the eye that captures the photograph. But you need to know the technical aspects to get the right photograph. If you don't have the right techniques and even the right technology, it's very hard to get the photo that you envision or the photo that the person in front of your camera envisions. I think that the biggest thing being a photographer is being able to connect with the people that you're photographing. That connection is so important. And that connection goes beyond you as a photographer, but even the studio staff that you're working with and the environment that you're working in. Because if you can develop that relationship, even if that relationship only lasts 30 minutes, you're going to get better photographs. I try personally not to get too involved in gear, but you need to have the proper gear to capture what you're actually photographing. I tend to shoot with Sony cameras, but I've used Nikon in the past, and I've actually fallen in love with a new Fuji camera that is really basically a point-and-shoot camera. But the important thing is you want a camera and you want the gear that will capture what your vision is. For instance, if you're shooting something with motion, you need something that has a high shutter speed. And if you're shooting something in a dark environment, you need to make sure the f-stop of your lens and also the sensor in your camera will be able to capture the details in those photographs that you take. I shoot a lot of fine art fashion, and I have a number of models that either travel through Atlanta or that live in Atlanta that I collaborate with. I also shoot underwater, and that's a whole special skill set of being able to hold your breath for a minute or two while you're underwater. Well, I shoot live music, and I really enjoy photographing musicians. I have a very good relationship with Live Nation, and they trust me that in the environments where I need to photograph somebody backstage or in concert, that I'm going to basically behave. I think that's something that we're seeing with some photographers, that they use the access as a photographer to get access to the artist, and that's not what we're there for. We're there to take photographs and to capture the event or the artist in their best way. I think collaboration is really important in any of the artistic mediums. For me, I like to think of myself as a good photographer, but I'm not very good in Photoshop. And having someone that I can call on to maybe make some changes or to touch up a photo for a client is very, very important. Also, I do know lighting well, but I'm not an expert in lighting, and there are some challenging scenarios where I need somebody that knows lighting, and we have so many good people that we can call on in Atlanta to help with that. And I learned from that. When I work with somebody, I collaborate, it's not to bring them in to take work off me, but it's something that I can learn from. I think the most important thing in photography, and something that I really enjoy doing, is finding a mentor or having a mentor that can kind of guide you. In live music photography, there are certain things that happen in the pit and backstage that you need to know how to respond and how to react. And I think that a mentor is maybe the most important thing, to find people that you may like their style, you may like their personality, and just see what they're doing to succeed. Sometimes imitation is the best flattery, but it's also the best way to get good at your craft. Well, I think when you go into the entertainment industry, you need to realize that you're not there to get selfies and autographs. I think that the respect that you give the artist and their artist staff and all the staff that you're working with is what really gives you the reputation that allows you to succeed in that industry. Too many people that I've seen are just wondering when they're going to get a selfie or if they can get an autograph, even with their camera or their equipment in hand. And the artists, they don't need that right now. You're there for a reason, just like when they perform, they're there for a reason. And so, as hard as it is sometimes, and even for me, it's hard with somebody that I've looked up to or a favorite musician, not to say, excuse me, but can I get a selfie? But it's usually not the environment. And you're also, when you're shooting entertainment, you're in a very special, exclusive area, and you need to behave in that area. And I think that's really, really important. Well, pit etiquette in live music photography is very, very important. First off, we'll get restrictions maybe from the artist management, and we may not like them, but then the answer is then just don't shoot. For me, I'm going to respect what restrictions they placed on me. We don't know the reasons for those restrictions. But the challenge, and it's a good challenge, is then given what you have to work with to capture your best art and your best photos. I look at it as almost like a reality show in that they're taking all these things away from you and you want to go ahead and do the best you can with what you have. And it's the same thing with the etiquette in the pit. And also to respect your fellow photographers, to respect the location and your space around. There's room for everybody to get great photos, but you need to have that respect for everybody else, for the photographers, for the videographers, for all the staff. So I've had the privilege at this point of photographing over 2,000 shows. The first show that I photographed was actually Led Zeppelin when I was 17 years old at Madison Square Garden using a film camera with slide film and managed somehow to get an epic in-focus photo in that. But even today, even with smaller acts, every time I walk into that pit or walk into the arena and see the crowds that are so passionate to see the musicians, they may not be your favorite musician, but there are 1,000 to 70,000 people who they are their favorite musician. And I still get chills and, candidly, even tears sometimes in my eyes when these bands come up and you're ready to photograph them. It truly is an honor and a privilege to be able to be in the front capturing those images. And at the same time, we need to keep in mind to have respect for the people behind us. We're not there for the whole concert. Typically, we're there for a few songs. But, I like to apologize ahead of time to the people that have been waiting for hours to be in that location and let them know that we're just there for a little while. And they always appreciate that. In every instance I've had that, people appreciate that. There's really no limit to where photography can take you. In one respect, it's almost like having a passport and an opportunity to meet people, to collaborate with people with your camera in your hand. I can't tell you how many times, even people not knowing I was a professional photographer, but I may be walking around with one of my cameras that I travel with, and people stop me maybe to ask to take a selfie or a photograph of them with some friends, or to even question me about my camera. And for every one of those people, I've always been generous, and actually, it's inspiring to see people like that. And through that, I have made so many good relationships. Some of those people that they're asking you questions, they have more experience than you. I had a situation at one of the big music festivals where I was walking and there were 3 other photographers walking in front of me. And I stopped and asked them if they were house photographers. And they said they weren't, but they're doing some video work for the festival. And it turns out one of those photographers was Danny Clinch, one of my favorite photographers on the planet. His work is incredibly inspiring. And, I told him, I said, look, I don't mean to be a fanboy because I'm here on professional, circumstances as well. But, I really respect what you do as a photographer and what your work has meant to me. And it's like, well, we can talk about that later. Let's go grab some coffee together. So, being human, I think, is the biggest thing. There's so much, you never know who you meet and what you can learn from people and the connections and the relationships that you build. And the longer you do this, the more those relationships are going to build. The best advice is to be patient. You're not going to walk in there as a new photographer or somebody that's just getting into the business and expect all these things to unfold for you immediately. But with time, if you're doing the right thing and you're passionate about what you do, all these things open up for you. I've had a camera in my hand since I was 5 years old, and there's actually photographic proof of me with a Rolleiflex twin lens reflex taking a photo. And I don't think a day goes by where the camera is not far from me. I'm still as passionate as I was. I've been shooting on and off for over 50 years, and I don't see that ever stopping. This has been truly an honor to be sitting in front of the camera instead of behind it. I think that we need to follow our passions. That's something that's maybe lacking in society today. And you'll hear people tell you that, well, it's a very hard career to get into. It's hard to do this. And that's true, but so is anything worthwhile. So if you are really passionate about this, then keep going for it. Learn, ask people to see what they do, get a mentor. But for me, it's been such an amazing journey. And the journey to me is limitless. It's never ending. I've done this for so many years, and still every day there's some magic, or every week there's some magic that opens up that says, I can't believe I'm getting this opportunity, or I managed to capture this image. And I would love for you to follow some of my work. My website is perryjulian.com. I'm on Instagram at perryjulian photography, and see my work, but look at everybody's work and don't look at it with jealousy or envy. Look at it as inspiration for things that you can do. Thank you for coming to Studio Stories. See you in front of the lens.